Hello guys, in this video we're going to learn how to use make.com completely from scratch. So if you are a beginner and you are just automating your first workflows, or you are a more advanced user and you want to improve the level of your automations, watch till the end because this video is for you. We are going to go from the basics, where we build simple scenarios, to more advanced scenarios using webhooks and HTTP requests, where we will access to information stored in third-party servers like Instagram, TikTok, etc. that then we will be able to use in our workflows. And for those that are new to the channel, my name is Borja Payasa and I'm the founder of Optimal Path, where we help small businesses to scale without increasing their costs. So if you have any project in mind, just book a meeting in the link in the description and let's discuss about it. And now let's go into the video. In the first part of the video, we're going to learn some basic concepts of make.com that will help us to understand all the functionalities and possibilities of make.com. Then we will build two automations that I use every day at my agency and that you are going to be able to implement from today at your business. In the first one, we're going to request a payment using webhooks, Airtable, and Stripe. And in the second one, we're going to download and store in Airtable all the videos that I upload to my TikTok account. So then once they are in Airtable, we can repurpose it to YouTube, Instagram, or Pinterest. And now let's go into the video. Okay, so first let's go with some basic concepts, okay? Because this is going to help us to understand in the future all the functionalities and possibilities that we're going to have in make.com. The first one that we need to take a look to is data bundle. And basically a data bundle is all the information that goes into a make scenario. For example, when we are getting a record from Airtable into a make.com, maybe we only use one or two parameters like name and email, but we're going to have like different parameters like status, city, country, phone number, and all those parameters basically create a data bundle, okay? Then a module is a specific action that make.com offers of certain application, okay? And every application offers different series of modules. For example, in Slack, you have the possibility of invite a user, create a channel, delete a user, send a message, and these are predefined actions that we don't need to set up. Then a filter is a tool that is going to allow us to filter bundles of data that match certain conditions. And with this, we're going to be able to increase the complexity of our scenario. Then a router is very similar to a filter, but in this case, a router also allows us to create different paths for different conditions. And now let's go with the advanced concepts that we're going to use in this video, okay? A webhook is a URL that sends and receives information instantly, and we can use to transfer data usually from third-party apps or other scenarios, okay? The information is transmitted instantly, so it means that whenever we send data to a specific URL, the scenario is going to trigger automatically, okay? So this is very useful whenever we want to build complex automation that basically require to connect different softwares or different scenarios in order to get a specific action or output, okay? And then an HTTP request is a specific module that allows us to access information in third-party servers, okay? It works in a very similar way than a webhook because it's also a URL, but the main difference is that a webhook allows us to send and receive information from our own data that we own from our softwares, and an HTTP request basically allows us to access information that we don't necessarily own, okay? Like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. So now that we've seen these two concepts, let's go into the two automations. In this first automation, remember that we are going to connect Airtable with Stripe and we are going to send the invoice to the customer, okay? So I created the automation already because I didn't want the video to be 40 minutes long, but I'm going to be explaining one by one and stopping in all the details that we actually need to understand, okay? So remember that the first module is a watch record module from Airtable, and then we're going to substitute this watch record by a webhook plus a get record so we can continue the same automation, okay? So obviously the first thing that we need to do is to create a database and to connect it, okay? So we need to have like two fields at least that we are going to need in order to connect with a watch module, that are going to be a last modified field and then a label field that in my case is status, okay? So I'm going to show you the database, and as you see here, there is different information like my name, the budget, the status, the type of project, and some other information that is going to be needed, okay? So every time that the status changes from not ready to ready, the automation is going to be triggered automatically and is going to send the invoice to the customer, okay? The only limit that we have here when we are using a watch record module is that the automation can only run at regular intervals. It is not immediate, okay? So we have to select 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, every 24 hours, something like that, okay? It's not immediate. If we want to create it immediately, we need to create a webhook, okay? And I'm going to explain how to do it later on. And now let's go with each one of the different Stripe modules, okay? And basically there is 5 different modules, because in the first one, the first thing that we actually need to do is to create a customer, because if there is no customer in Stripe, we cannot issue an invoice. So we have to select a module of create a customer, okay? Then we need to create an invoice for that payment that we are going to send. And then remember, as in my case, I only offer custom-made services. In this case, I have to create an invoice for every service that I provide and for every invoice and every payment link that I provide, okay? Because every service is going to have a different price. So I need to create an invoice item, okay? Then once we are here, I'm going to be showing one by one like how do we have to fill it. Then we need to finalize the draft invoice that we are going to create here. And then last, we need to make an API call where we're going to send the invoice plus the payment link to the final customer. Now that we have seen a quick overview, we're going to fill all the different fields in order to make the automation functional, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is to run this module, okay, and pull some data. Because with the data that we're going to get from here, as we saw, we're going to be able to fill the rest of the fields in an easier way. So here, we're going to set description with project description, and then we are just going to fill the different fields. So description is going to go with description, email is going to go with email, name is going to go with name, and basically all the different fields, okay? All these fields, we need them in order to create an invoice and send it to the customer. So I'm going to fill them. City, country, zip code or postal code, and then state is cool. And here we don't need to fill anything, okay? Let's take a look to the advanced settings. No, here we don't need to fill anything, okay? So we're going to click on OK, and we're going to save. And then here we're going to create the invoice for the customer that we just created, okay? So now customer ID is going to be this one, okay? Remember, here there is a 7 and here there is a 7 as well. So basically the data that we are using here, the data that we have here is the data that is created in the previous step. So customer ID is going to be over here. Then we're going to select send invoice as collection method. And then, for example, 7 days until due. So description is the description that we used previously here, but actually we can use the same field that we use in Stripe, but we're going to use the same that we use in Airtable. Subscription ID, in this case, we don't have. And then pending invoice items behavior, we're going to leave it as it is. So we're going to take a look to see if we need something here. And here we don't need anything. And now let's show the advanced settings to see if we need something, okay? So here we don't need nothing, custom fields nothing, transfer data nothing, everything is okay, okay? So let's go and hide it. And now let's go to create an invoice item, okay? So customer ID, as in the previous case, we're going to customer ID, we're going to use this one. Customer ID, perfect. And then input an amount is going to be by total amount. And then the amount, this is actually very important because in the amount we actually need to write a formula, okay? Because for example, if the invoice is $100 and we write only 100, we're going to send an invoice by the amount of 100 pennies. So we actually need to multiply by 100. So let's budget 1050, that is over here, and then here we're going to use an operation, okay, that is going to be multiplied by 100. Then currency, we need to select US and we're going to select US dollar. Description, we're going to use the same description as we use in previous steps. So in this case it's going to be product description. And then here, this information, we don't need it. And then show advanced settings. Let's see if we need something else. And then invoice ID, we need the one that we created in the step number 8. Okay, so here we have this, and all is good. Then finalize draft invoice, the one that we created in the previous step. All is good. And then here we're going to make an API call, okay? I'm going to write the information and I'm going to share this information with you in the description, okay? So you can actually use it. So in this last step, what we're going to do is to write exactly this as it is, okay? So we're going to write /v1/invoices/ the variable invoice of the previous step /send, and then we're going to change the method from get, that is the default one, to post, okay? And then the rest we're going to leave it as it is. Now let's click in save, and what is going to happen is that if we go to the database and we change the status from not ready to ready, and then we click in run once, because if not, this automation is going to run automatically every 15 minutes, which is not a lot, but we want it to trigger automatically in order to check that it works. We're going to click in run once and the whole automation is going to be triggered, okay? So let's click in run once. And as you saw, the whole automation is going to be triggered, and now we're going to receive the invoice in the email, okay? So as you see, we just received the invoice a couple of minutes ago, and now we can pay it through clicking here, or we can download it through clicking here. Basically, we receive the invoice automatically on our email. So this is really useful because by changing only the status in our CRM, that in this case is Airtable, we're going to be sending invoices automatically to the customer without doing absolutely anything else, rather than just changing the status, so then the customer can pay the invoice automatically. Okay, so now let's go with the webhook, okay? Remember that previously here we only had a watch record module, so now we substituted it with a webhook module plus a get record module. And this is like this because the webhook is going to be triggered basically every time that we make a change on Airtable with an automation that I'm going to show you now, and then we're going to find all the rest of information from the specific record with the information that we got from the webhook, okay? So now let's go to Airtable to set the automation that is going to trigger the webhook, okay? So basically, let's go to automations, to the automations tab. Basically, the automation is when a record is updated and the status is updated in this case, we are going to run a script, okay? So the script that we're going to run is exactly this one, okay? Here, this information over here, you need to substitute it with your webhook URL, okay? So here I'm going to control Z, but here this is the script that you need to run. I'm going to leave it in the description as well. And then very important here is that record ID is actually mapped with Airtable record ID. So we make sure that whenever we trigger the script, we send the right information to make.com, okay? So finish editing, and now the automation is on. So every time that we actually change the status from ready to not ready or vice versa, we're going to send a script to make.com. So now I'm going to run this module. So basically we see that this works. So ready to not ready. And now we're going to go here and we're going to see that we received the information from the webhook. As you saw, we just received the information here and we received the record ID, okay? So now we need to include this record ID in here, okay? We map everything, table 1, and then record ID is going to be this one. Why we're going to do this? Because if instead of mapping the record, we send straightforward all the information, we're going to be doing syntax, and we're going to be writing like many different variables and sending many different information with the webhook. And in this way, we just need to send the record ID that then we're going to retrieve from the Airtable database, okay? So, okay here, and now the problem that we actually had is that as we change the watch module from Airtable to a webhook plus a get record module, now we need to map all the different fields that we actually lost. So now we're going to be mapping all these different things here: project description, email, name, address 1, address 2, city, country, and basically all the different variables that we are going to need in order to create the invoice, okay? So zip code, and here everything is correct. So that one is done. Then project description, we need to map something from Airtable that is going to be over here. This is it. Then create an invoice item, budget from Airtable as well. That is over here. And then project description, that is over here. So invoice ID is already from Stripe, and now we're going to run the automation by changing the status in Airtable and see what happens in make.com. So I'm going to click in run once, and then I'm going to change the status in Airtable. Okay, so let's do this. Let's change the status from not ready to ready, and now let's see what happens here. Now we should receive the information. And as you saw, the automation is triggered, and in this case we are not using a watch module that is going to be watching all the changes that are happening in the database of Airtable every 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, but whenever there is a new change, an automation is going to be triggered and we are going to receive the information automatically, which is way more efficient and is going to consume less tasks. And also is going to allow us to build more complex scenarios because of the real-time data transmission that we are getting with the webhooks. Okay, so now that we have already discovered how to use watch modules, how to use webhooks, now we're going to discover how to use filters and routers, which is going to allow us to increase the complexity of our scenarios and consequently build better and more complete automation. So let's go into it, but first let's have a context, okay? So we see that the budget here is like 1,050, okay? So the filter that we are going to set is that if the amount of the budget is below 5,000, the automation is not going to run. And for this, we just need to click on this tool here, set up a filter, and then click budget. And then, very important here, select numeric operator, okay? So numeric operator is going to be equal or greater than. If the numeric operator is equal or greater than, the automation continues, but if it is not equal or greater than, means that it's below it, the automation doesn't run, okay? So let's select it, numeric operator greater than or equal to, and we're going to set up 5,000, okay? 5,000. Now we're going to click in run once in order to wait for the data, and now we're going to change the status from this to ready to not ready, okay? So we trigger the automation, and now we're going to see how the automation actually stops here. Let's wait for the data. And as we saw, the automation doesn't pass through here because the filter doesn't actually match the conditions, okay? So now let's change the sliding number, and instead of 5,000, it's going to be 500. Let's see what happens. So we click here, and then numeric operator greater than or equal to. So it's going to be 500 now. So now, again, we're going to click in run once, and we're going to wait for the data, and we're going to click in status equal to ready. So now we're waiting for the data, and now once the data is going to come through, as you see, the filter didn't stop the flow because we actually matched the condition that the budget is equal or greater than 500. And now let's do something similar but with routers. And the routers are basically going to be filters, but instead of stopping the flow automatically, are going to allow us to create different paths so we can create more complex scenarios that are going to help us to create different automations depending on the data that we actually receive, okay? So let's separate this for a second. Let's unlink this. And now let's go to flow control, router, and let's set up a router here, okay? So this is going to be like this. And let's align. So we're going to create another path, and we're going to duplicate this one. So just for you to see that this actually works, we're going to delete this one, and we're going to align. So the filter that we're going to use in this case is if type of project equals, and it's going to be a text operator right now. So if type of project text operator equals to consultancy, the automation comes this way. But if on the other hand the type of project equals to automation, the workflow is going to come in this path, okay? So condition type of project equal to automation. So we're going to click here, We're going to click in run once, and then we're going to wait for new data, okay? So as you see, the type of project is automation, so it should actually come this way, okay? So we're going to change the status, and let's see what happens. Theoretically, it should go through this path, through the lower path, and now let's try the other way. So as you see, it came through this path, and now we can actually add different modules and add different actions in order to treat the data that pass through our CRM, okay? And now let's try the opposite way. So type of project equals to consultancy. We're going to run once, and we are going to change the status to ready, so we see what happens. And as you see now, the workflow went through the upper path, okay? So now let's go into the second automation, where we're going to learn how to use HTTP requests and access to data stored in third-party servers. Now let's go with the second automation that is basically here. And as you see, this is a simple workflow, but it's going to give us a lot of possibilities, okay? As you can see, the automation starts with a watch TikTok video post module that is basically connected to my TikTok account. And then as you can see here, we have an HTTP module that is going to ask for the information that we actually need to the endpoint URL. Remember, an HTTP request is very similar to a webhook, with the difference that with an HTTP request we access to information stored in third-party servers, like TikToks in this case, okay? So this URL is here already, but I'm going to explain where I took it from, okay? So don't worry about it. And then in Airtable, we just need to create the connection, and we just need to map the different fields, okay? I'm going to go into it later on. So what are we going to do to fill the different fields and the different headers and the different parameters that we have in this make a request module, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is go to rapidapi.com, and then we're going to look for TikTok, okay? We're going to go to the search bar, and we're going to type TikTok, and we're going to look for it, okay? So the one that I'm going to be using is TikTok all-in-one, but you can actually use any of them because most of them are free for the amount of use that we are going to do, okay? So let's go back into it. And the first thing that we need to do here is go to the left column and go to video info and select the module video info, okay? So we're going to click on it, and basically what this is going to give to us is a URL and some parameters that we need to include in the HTTP make a request module, okay? So as we can see, the URL that we need to send the request to is basically this one, that it was already in the module. It was already here, and this needs to be a get request, and we need to add the following headers, okay? So this is going to be the first header, that is going to be the name, and then the second header is going to be this one. So it's going to be this one, and the values, we are going to fill the following values. So value 1, and then value 2. And now, last and very important thing, in this module, in this endpoint, we're going to need a parameter, okay? And this parameter is the parameter ID. This is very important because this is going to be a dynamic parameter, so it's going to change with the video that we are actually requesting information from, okay? So let's go back to make, and let's add a query string with the name ID and the value the video post ID, okay? This is very important that you actually select this value. So now let's select the following settings: body type raw, content type application JSON, and then parse response yes, okay? So in order to test the automation, what we're going to do now is select a record that we're going to start the TikTok module from, okay? So we're going to choose manually a record, one of the last videos that I uploaded, and we're going to use this one, for example. And now we're going to run the module, okay? Theoretically, it's going to run until here, but it's not going to run here because we don't actually have linked and have mapped the different variables into the Airtable create record, okay? So let's take a look. So this worked. This created the request. And actually, as we saw, like, this is a success, and here we have all the information from the video. And now here, as we see, this is a success as well, but we're going to take a look to the record, and as we see, there is no video, but there is only the record ID, okay? That is a visible column that we have here. So there wasn't any video pushed into Airtable, okay? So now let's map the different fields, okay? And basically we're going to map two fields because are the ones that we actually need. So here we're going to select file URL, and we're going to look for the following item, okay? That is going to be play a deer. That in this case is over here, okay? So we're going to pull the file URL, and then the file name can actually be any kind of thing. It can be like data size. Actually, this record, we don't have it mapped. So yeah, we can leave it like that. So now, again, we're going to select a record where we can start, okay? So choose where to start, choose manually. We select this record, and we're going to click in run once. So as we see this work, this was a success, and now we're going to see if we actually pulled some information into here, okay? So let's take a look, and as we can see here, we have this video that was actually the last one that I uploaded to my TikTok account, and I'm gonna show it now. So this is over here, and this is the last video that I uploaded to my TikTok account, as you can see. So this automation, working together with other two automations that push the content to Instagram and to YouTube Shorts, basically saved to me from 30 to 45 minutes every day. And as you can see, super easy to set up, but the functionalities of this automation and any other automation using HTTP requests are endless. So I hope that this was useful for you and that you can actually implement these automations in your business from now. So that's all, guys, and if you like the video, please like and subscribe, because this video actually took a while and it literally has all the information that I wish that I knew when I was starting with my Make automation journey. See you in the next one, guys.